Fox News alert on growing scrutiny of the former head of the IRS and what's behind the significant number of times, unprecedented as far as we can see, he personally visited the Obama White House. What were they talking about? Brand new hour here of America Live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Former IRS Commissioner Doug Shulman and his extensive access to the White House coming to light in congressional hearings as he faced tough questions over the IRS's targeting of conservative groups. We did some digging into the White House visitors log, and it shows that Mr. Shulman, the head of what is supposed to be a mostly independent agency, it's a quasi-independent agency, couple of political appointees, but the agency itself is supposed to not be political, visited the White House far more than we knew when he testified before Congress. At least 159 times from January 2009, when President Obama first took office, through November 2012, when Mr. Shulman's term ended. That is an average of one visit every 9 days. Chris Direwalt is our Fox News digital politics editor and host of Power Play on FoxNews.com Live. I can't think of a person who I visit every 9 days. I mean, honestly, it's like your immediate family, your colleagues that you work with in your office, and then the number of, it's almost once a week that he was going over to the White House. And he would have us believe that it was routine business or he wanted to roll another Easter egg. That's what he told us when he testified before Congress, Chris. But now, even the former head of the IRS has weighed in saying, I think I went once, and that's because it's important to maintain your independence and the appearance of independence. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, you said his access, but there's also the willingness, and that's a question here, and that's the issue that's been raised. The IRS is, remember what the IRS is a law enforcement agency. It is like the FBI. It is semi-autonomous. It has a head who is picked by the president but confirmed for a term longer than the president's. The idea is that this person will have some flexibility to do as they think best, not be subject to the pressure from the president once he's on the job. He's not a will and pleasure employee. And since the terrible scandals that had previously occurred with the IRS long ago, 40 years ago and beyond, with the IRS being used for a political entity, this has become even more necessary as people said, no, this is an autonomous office, much like the FBI director, let's say, who is also the head of a law enforcement agency, that they say, we're doing our job and we're not going to be in the political game. Going to the White House that much is weird.
The people don't have to take your word for it or my word for it. They can take the word, as I mentioned, of the former IRS commissioner who preceded Douglas Shulman, a man named Mark Everson. Now, he appeared before Congress in August of 2012 to talk about how the IRS might be enforcing these new tax regulations we're going to face under Obamacare, the new taxes we're all going to have to pay, or many of us under Obamacare. And he was talking about the need for the IRS to be and to appear independent of the White House. Here's how he put it.
For important and well-understood reasons, the IRS operates with a great deal of independence from other agencies. I worry that such direct participation of the service in a major non-tax administration initiative has the potential to erode the historic independence of the service. And let me be clear here, I have nothing but the highest regard for Commissioner Shulman and his team. I'm not suggesting I've seen things, but I just think that when you bring the service in closer to the White House and to other agencies, you just run the risk of eroding that independence.
Now, if Shulman went 10 times, 20 times, maybe, right? 159 times, and that guy we just saw went once?
Once. And by comparison, I believe that the director of the FBI, Robert Mueller, went maybe 5 times over that same period. A scant number of visits for a guy who was running the most important federal law enforcement agency. So there's something going on here with Mr. Shulman. Now, he could be, the White House could be totally fessing up, and so could have Shulman in his testimony, to say, all we ever talked about was Easter eggs and the president's health care law and insurance mandates. That's all we ever did. Nobody ever said, hey, how's it going with targeting conservative groups for special scrutiny from the IRS? Maybe nobody ever said anything untoward. But the reason you don't go to the White House or to the White House campus 159 times is that when a bad thing like this happens, your plausible deniability goes to zero.
What was he doing there? What
was he
were
doing there?
they talking about? Listen to his, this is what he told Congress. This is how he phrased the need for all those visits here.
What would be some of the reasons you might be at the White House?
The Easter egg roll with my kids.
Well,
Questions about the administrability of tax policy
All right.
they were thinking of, our budget, us helping the Department of Education streamline application processes for financial aid.
The problem for him is that initial answer on the Easter egg roll, it was a little snarky, and it suggests that he doesn't want to be forthright. I mean, that's the hackles go up when he says that, because we know he didn't. Easter, I'm not the most observant Catholic, but it only comes once a year, right?
We're certain. Even the Protestants, we only do it once a year too. That's all we've got, Megan.
It just suggests this is not a man who wants to be forthright about why he's there. I'm not saying he wasn't being. I'm just saying that answer, yet again, leads to more questions.
It's a lot of peeps, you know. So I don't know how much he now regrets his testimony. I can be very certain, though, that the president regrets that Mr. Shulman conducted himself in this way and had such a bad outing. And the questions continue. And you were talking about it earlier today. Americans know that they want a special prosecutor to look into what happened at the IRS. And until we have answers about what they were talking about all 159 times when it wasn't about eggs and peeps, and everything that happened, and who was responsible, and what did Lois Lerner know when she knew it, and all of this stuff that has to be dragged through, until that happens, it's only going to get worse.
We don't know that much about Mr. Shulman. We know that he was appointed to the post by President Bush. It's a 5-year appointment. We also, according to some reports, know that he donated $500 to the Democratic National Committee. So, you know, back in 2004, that was. So we don't know exactly what his political persuasion is, or whether he decided to get more political than we've seen in former IRS chiefs. Hopefully time will tell. Maybe President Obama is getting audited.
We'll look into it.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.